Hello and welcome back to an extra-sode of the Spectre Approved podcast. We're doing something a little bit different to our regularly scheduled episode, covering the Legend of Dragoon, but in a bit of a different way, with a developer interview. So I am your regular co-host, Adam Forrester. I'm joined by Fenris.
That's me.
No quippy intro today, unfortunately. And we're joined by creator of the Severed Chains port, Monoxide. Good morning.
Hey, everyone.
Good afternoon from wherever you're coming to us in the world.
Nighttime here.
Nighttime.
Or just about, at least.
Yeah. So we'll get a bit more into the intro for yourself, Monoxide. But for those that don't know about Legend of Dragoon, it's a PS1 JRPG staple of the genre, developed by Sony Computer Entertainment Japan, published by Sony Computer Entertainment, released in Japan December 2nd, 1999, came to North America June 13, 2000. And as always, for such things at the time, us over in the European PAL regions didn't get it till January 19th, 2001. So very late as opposed to everyone else. But that's okay. So the reason that we asked Monoxide to come on to talk about the wonderful thing that they've created is for our upcoming episode of The Legend of Dragoon. Fenris and I played through the Severed Chains port because personally I don't own a PS1 anymore. So this was the main way that I could play it. And you'll hear more about it on that episode itself, about how much we loved it. But we'll throw it over to you, Monoxide. So to start us off, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background in gaming and development?
Well, I've always been a gamer. I kind of started off, the very first game I ever played was Super Mario World on the SNES. From there, kind of went to the N64, got into the Zelda games quite a bit, and then I'd mostly played Xbox since then. Believe it or not, I've actually never owned a PlayStation. So, kind of funny that LOD is the game that I started with, and, now I'm probably one of the more knowledgeable people on, like, the inner workings of the PlayStation and PS1 games.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's kind of been my life for the past, it's been over 5 years now. Started the end, it was like December 2020 when I first started the LOD port.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to believe it's been so long now.
And then, I don't know if you have any workings with him, but do you know, or have you met or talked to at all, I like to call him like the master of Legend of Dragoon because he's everywhere, but Drew Universe.
I work pretty closely with Drew. We've done a lot of work and streaming and stuff together.
Nice.
We've kind of been involved since day one. Drew is the community manager for the Legend of Dragoon Discord and most of the other fan communities, and they definitely help out a lot with like video production for Severed Chains and community stuff, things like that.
Cool. when was it that you started? When was your first playthrough of Legend of Dragoon?
Oh god, my very
Yeah.
first experience, and now this is a little foggy because it was a long time ago. Um, I remember it was in grade school at my best friend's house. He asked me to come over and help him beat the final boss because he couldn't beat it on his own. He had tried like 3 or 4 times and just couldn't manage it for whatever reason. So, we're probably like, I mean, this was probably very, very soon after it came to North America. So I'm going to say, probably like 2001, 2002. And I don't know exactly what we were doing, but we beat it in one go, but it took us over 4 hours. I don't know if we were sitting back and like strategizing or, like, I don't know. Like I said, it's pretty fuzzy at this point, but that's kind of what I'll always remember about it.
Oh yeah, I remember fondly the first time I played Legend of Dragoon. I got the discs from a friend of mine down the road, and then he moved away and told me I could keep it, and I was hooked from then. I never could beat the final boss a couple years later, just because when you're young and you don't really know all the systems and how they work,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to do all the additions and all that stuff. Like, there's a lot.
Oh yeah,
in the game.
I definitely didn't understand like the benefits of using different editions and whatnot. I feel like that's a pretty common thing amongst most of us when we were younger and playing the game for the first time. It's kind of funny that my first experience with the game was the final boss, so I kind of spoiled it for myself, I guess. But you're a kid, you don't know.
And I love hearing all these childhood experiences from both of you, because my first time playing Legend of Dragoon was actually playing it for the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I rolled credits probably January this year, and Severed Chains was
Nice.
my first go-through of the game. I've never played it vanilla.
I'm glad that you could experience it that way your first time.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, particularly of like PS1 JRPGs in general, because Fenris and I played Xenogears a bit late last year as well, and let me just say, playing a modern port or something that's had work done to it since the initial iteration is just all the quality of life. But we'll get into that. Just made it a dream. So what kind of made you go from like playing Legend of Dragoon, being a gamer, to wanting to work on Severed Chains specifically?
So my brother and I, we do some randomizers in Ocarina of Time. We'll usually run one every, maybe a couple of months, sometimes, once every few months, sometimes more. But we were kind of experimenting with doing it on Ship of Harkanian. And I mean, it's a very, very cool thing what they're doing. I found that very interesting. And I had done a small amount of reverse engineering in the past, and I was just kind of like, this is kind of cool. And I also want to play Legend of Dragoon right now. Maybe I'll just port it to PC. It'll be fun.
Yeah. And before starting the project, had you worked on any other ports or reverse engineering projects before?
Not ports per se, but I actually kind of got started in reverse engineering. There's a guy that hired me. This is kind of like a hyper-specific and sort of very strange thing, but he hired me to reverse engineer some Minecraft mods and update them so that they worked on like newer versions of Minecraft.
Oh, nice.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of my introduction to reverse engineering. And I also have sort of like a passing interest in like low-level hardware and assembly and whatnot. One of the projects that I had worked on recently before starting Severed Chains was actually like a computer like built from scratch just using logic gates. So I had kind of learned about how like, computer hardware worked and how assembly code worked and whatnot from doing that.
Excellent. Thank you. I didn't understand much of that at all, what you just said about the reverse engineering. Not my forte, which is interesting with some of the technical questions we've got later on. But I'll trust that you know what you're talking about.
Not most people's forte.
The quality of the port speaks for itself, though. But for listeners that might not be familiar, not all of our listeners are PC. We don't always play specific PC games. How would you describe Severed Chains in your own words?
In my own words, I'd really like to think that we are showcasing the dev team's vision for the game in a way that they could not do so because of hardware restrictions at the time.
Yeah.
We're taking the things that they made and just trying to present that in the best way possible.
And you guys did a fantastic job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And what were your main goals when designing this port?
Our main goals, basically it's kind of like improve the game where we can, but respect the original. Like we don't. A lot of our player base is people who have been playing this game for over 20 years, like 2 decades.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They love this game enough that they still play it. And we've seen what happens when a big studio takes an old game, remasters it, changes it, everybody hates it, it flops, and it just ruins the game for everyone. And we don't want to do that. We want to just present the original in the best way we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then how did that lead you to decide what to change versus what to leave untouched? Because, well, personally, a big change that, whilst I never experienced it playing the PS1 version, automatic additions was probably my favourite change. I'll just say that now. Because sometimes, I just wasn't paying attention and I'd stuff up an addition and it's like, oh, wait, I've got that quality of life that I can make additions automatic.
So anything that is going to affect gameplay, we actually vote on.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire dev team will get together. We will vote on whether it is a good fit or not, whatsoever. Sometimes, very occasionally, we'll say, yes, this should be the default. Things like bug fixes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
We have quite a few original game bugs that we've fixed. There's no option to restore it to the original behavior because it's just plainly a better experience. Other stuff we will decide this is a nice feature. It's good for accessibility, like automatic additions or the option to not have to do button mashing for item magic. We're all getting into our 30s and 40s at this point. We have wrist issues. It hurts some people. It straight up is painful for a lot of people. So we will have the default be the original, but add these other in-game options so that people can, tailor the game to their abilities if they need to do so.
And those quality of life features that you guys added to this port were really top notch, because I know that during my many playthroughs of this game, I always had to have a special controller that had the turbo feature
Mm.
specifically for this game, just so I could, try and deal out as much damage as I could with whatever magic item I was using.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a big one that we really wanted to do, and that was actually, believe it or not, that was one of the more difficult things for us to do, and did not even become possible until like a year or two ago.
Oh.
Like 3.5, 4 years into development.
Well, I mean, it was executed flawlessly. I never had any issues with it, so. But earlier you talked on remakes and remasters. So if Sony dropped an official remaster tomorrow, what would they almost certainly get wrong that you already solved?
There's so many things that they could get it wrong. I think one of the main things might just be the art style. LOD has an incredibly unique art style, especially amongst JRPGs.
Yeah.
And I could talk about the art style a lot. I'll try and keep it short. But it was actually based around art from the creator of the art for Alien.
Oh.
And you can see a lot of parallels in like the Wingly architecture and stuff. It's all very organic. You can see that in the Dragoon designs, in the Dragon designs. Like the armor is very organic. The ancient Wingly locations are very organic, especially in the like concept art. You can really see it. They tone down a little bit here and there, but it's they really kind of stayed away from the really stereotypical like fantasy, even though it is obviously like a fantasy game. But they sort of like grounded it more in reality, and then that sort of like, alien influence. And, I think they came up with something very unique that has stood the test of time. Like it still looks pretty good today. Whereas you get to sort of modern gaming and everything kind of has that like generic Unreal Engine feel. Everything kind of looks the same. It's all just hyper realistic. You don't see many like really stylized games coming out except from like small studios and stuff.
Yeah, and now I was just gonna say nowadays you can definitely tell when something is made in Unreal Engine 5 because it has that look and that feel about it.
Yeah, the Unreal look, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they would definitely want to modernize the graphics, and in doing so, they would lose a lot of that unique identity that the game has.
That's extremely fair, and a very good answer.
So, like you spoke before about the architecture of the PS1 and how you familiarize yourself with it, and I'm not all over going back that far, but I know the PS3, for example, was not good architecture for like porting or backwards compatibility or things like that moving forward, particularly with where it's at with like its PC emulation. Like that's taken so long to get off the ground. But off topic. The fact of the matter is like the games at that time weren't built with porting in mind. So what were some of the biggest technical challenges you faced early on?
The biggest technical challenges. So LOD actually runs a script engine. This is very atypical of the time. They may have actually been one of the very first games to have a complete script virtual machine that runs most of the game. This is very commonplace now, of course. But, back in 99 or, the several years prior when they were developing it, it was unheard of. The reason being was, scripts just don't run as fast as like native code. So you have to be very, very careful what you're running in a script, especially on a system like a PlayStation 1 that is, I think it's got a 2 megahertz processor. I might be way off with that. It might have been 200. But anyway, it's not fast. And it only has 2 megs of RAM.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 8 megs of RAM. I'm just way off right now. Anyway, very, very little system resources.
Yeah.
And now this script engine, it was great early on for us because once I had the script engine reverse engineered and working, a lot of the game just worked. Like most of battle is handled by scripts. Most of the submaps are all scripted. So, once I worked the kinks out of the script engine, you could just play a bunch of the game without me having to do much more work on, maps and stuff. A lot of the games at the time, I've done some reverse engineering for Mega Man Legends, Golden Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of their maps is just code, so you have to reverse engineer and port every single map. Whereas Legend of Dragoon, all the maps are scripts. Once the script engine's good to go, basically the entire game is just laid out in front of you.
And was this one of those games that you saw some big differences between like PAL copies and NTSC? Like your Metal Gear Solid that ran the however many times faster in NTSC but was slowed up for the PAL?
No.
Okay.
I believe the game does run slightly slower in PAL.
Yep.
But in terms of like code differences, it is basically the exact same.
Okay, cool.
I'm just trying to think. There's some slight differences between the Japanese version and the US version, but it's mostly just in like game balancing and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, they did actually like tone down the difficulty for like the global release compared to the Japanese release.
Yeah. Square and Sony love doing that for us Westerners at the they couldn't handle their hard JRPGs at the time.
Yeah.
And they actually removed a mini game as well because there was some hardware in Japan called the Pocket Station that never ended up releasing worldwide.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
No, neither.
So you just said that Legend of Dragoon is run almost entirely off of a script. Can you walk us through the process of reverse engineering something like that?
So at first, we didn't even know this. We had no idea that most of the game ran off of scripts up until I got fairly far into reverse engineering the game. And that's, it's pretty surprising because, there was several people, the Flying Zambonis, Icronics, Doom Metal, and a bunch of others who had done a lot of work on, kind of picking the game apart and taking apart the files and stuff before I came along, trying to make mods and stuff for it. But when we realized that, we were kind of just like, oh wow, that's kind of surprising. Like, this is, kind of unheard of at this time. So it was a pretty cool thing to discover.
And in discovering that, did it make the whole process easier?
It certainly helped with figuring out what a lot of the code was doing.
Okay.
Because, up until the point that we discovered that we actually figured out, like, this is a script engine, it was kind of just this black box of, this code does something. It's doing a lot of stuff. It's very complicated, but we have no idea what that stuff is.
Gotcha.
So then, how did you guys kind of approach stability and performance while porting this title across different systems? Because I know consoles are just basically PCs, but you talked about the memory difference, the RAM difference, all that sort of thing. So what was your stability control that you had in place?
So, like most games of the era, Legend of Dragoon was written in C. So C is a it's not a memory safe language. You can kind of it's very loose on what it prevents you from doing. You can kind of just do anything you want, for better or for worse. There's very few safeguards, there's very few checks built in. You have to do all the checking yourself, or, you can cause all kinds of mayhem. Now, LOD itself does not do a whole lot of checking, which is kind of a whole can of worms. We found a lot of bugs in the retail game. But when I built Severed Chains, I kind of built it from the ground up to be much more conscious of system integrity. So I added in all kinds of checks to make sure that things were working as they were supposed to. A big part of that was for my own benefit, so I could tell if I had reverse engineered things correctly and they were working to spec as I expected them to be. But also, we caught a lot of bugs in the base game by doing that as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you ran into quite a few hiccups. So what was the hardest part of the original game that fought you when trying to modernize it?
Oh, when trying to modernize it. Definitely, bar none, was modernizing the rendering code. So we have, at this point, converted the entire game to OpenGL. Legend of Dragoon is not built for a modern rendering pipeline. It really, really is not. Graphics rendering it's indistinguishable from what it was in the 90s. It's done completely differently now. Most of it is done on the graphics card itself. So you upload a bunch of stuff to the graphics card, and you actually have code running on the graphics card. Whereas, back in the day, you did everything on the CPU and then just, said, hey, GPU, draw this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that LOD does that you can't do on a modern graphics card. The reasons are fairly complicated and not really worth getting into. But I sort of had to emulate a lot of stuff in shaders to sort of make it behave like a PS1. So, we've got this modern OpenGL pipeline now, rendering pipeline. But there's still a lot of code running on the GPU that sort of pretends to be a PS1 and emulates a lot of the quirks of rendering on the old school hardware.
Right, yeah.
Well, I want to say again that you guys did a fantastic job, because Fenris and I have played a few old games for the show, and moving across to PC gaming in the last 2 or 3 years, as opposed to being a console boy myself for most of my life, crashes are something is very new to me, and they happen quite a bit when I try and play PC games these days. But I didn't experience any of that with Severed Chains.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
We do have some fail safes in there too, just in case the game does crash. But we try and be very proactive about that sort of thing. If anything does come up, we sort of drop whatever we're working on and get it fixed up as soon as possible.
Yeah. And you spoke about that collaboration that you have with the team earlier today. So were there things that you've deliberately refused to, I guess, fix in inverted commas because they're part of the game's identity?
Probably the biggest thing is the dialogue.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm sure you experienced it in your playthrough. It's very dated. It's got the very, I want to say charming, but the proper word is janky translation. And while we will be allowing modders to do retranslation mods in the not near future, but fairly near future, once we finish up what we're working on now, we plan to start working on dialogue modding and stuff. So we are going to allow modders to change that, but we are not going to make any changes ourselves, because the second that we start reinterpreting the script, we fall into this trap of, oh well, this is what I think they meant, and it just devolves into chaos, and then you've got unhappy players who interpret things differently,
and without bad mouthing him, because he did a lot for the translation community, like Ted Woolsey's influence on Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and things like that. It didn't always come out the way people wanted or expected. So it's a good thing that you guys are kind of staying away from the translation.
I'm gonna go off script real quick and ask a question. In the original PlayStation copy of Legend of Dragoon, anytime someone was talking, they had like what you would read in a book. It was in quotations. However, the starting quotations were actually the end quotes, and then their text, and then it was followed up by more end quotes. Was there anything that you could do to fix that? Because it's a minor thing for me, but it's just something that I noticed that I thought would have been fixed with this Severed Chains port. But I mean, at this point, it really does add, like you said, that charm to the game.
Well, the reason for that is because there's only one quotation mark character.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't have an opening quotation mark. They just have the one.
Gotcha. That makes everything so much clearer.
Yeah, they when they were drawing the font, they probably could have just made it not slanted, not curly, so it's just 2 lines, and you could use it for either side, and it wouldn't matter. But stylistic choices, that just happened to be what their art team decided to do, for better or for worse.
That explains so much. And in that vein, what is a system that players like myself assume is simple that turned out to be absolutely spaghetti?
Oh God. Well, I mentioned how difficult it was to just make the automatic button mashing mode earlier. So The reason that was so difficult is because the button mashing is actually handled in a script. And not only is it handled in a script, it is in copy and pasted into every single attack item script.
Oh.
And LOD's scripts, you may have seen game scripts before, like text-based. LOD's scripts are not text. They're actually compiled down to a bytecode. So it's raw binary. So they can't just be like opened up in a text editor and edited. We can get into this a little bit more later, but I actually wrote a script decompiler and recompiler that takes those compiled scripts, turns them into something human editable, and then you edit them, you create a patch, and then you can patch the scripts using that. So that's why it took 3.5, 4 years, whatever, before we were able to even just add that seemingly simple little option.
It always seems to be the simple things that always give you the most headaches.
Yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned Monoxide, like that there's been a really good community surrounding this project as it's kind of evolved. So in the early days and even up to now, how do you go about testing changes? Are you relying on community feedback? Is it personal play testing, or a bit of both?
So we actually have a testing group with 600 people in it.
Nice.
Now, a lot of the bulk of those people, they don't really engage very much with it. But we do have some very, very dedicated testers who will, there's a couple specifically, like Wolves, for example. He records every minute of his gameplay and then watches it back after, basically frame by frame, looking for issues. It's insane. He has found so many bugs both in Severed Chains and in the original game. You have no idea. He has created probably 40% of the bug reports for us.
Oh, wow. Honestly, when it comes to, play testing like that, that doesn't sound insane to me. That sounds widely, hugely dedicated.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he is our greatest testing asset.
I'll bet.
Yeah, he's the reason that it's so stable.
Kudos to that. For those that don't or haven't played the Severed Chains yet and have only played the original, because especially on the Reddit, the subreddit, I've noticed that there's a lot more people who are, finding the game and completing it. What experiences should they expect to gain, and what are they losing?
I mean, I would like to think they aren't losing anything. Like I said, we really try to keep the original experience there and just sort of improve on that. Now, one of the biggest things they would notice, right off the bat, is we can do 4K, 8K graphics, whatever, and most of the game runs at 60 frames per second now. And you will, of course, see that, the second you fire up the game, as soon as you get in game. The intro, you've got the part where Dart's running away from the dragon. It's all very fast paced and fluid, and you can really see the difference there, especially with the widescreen support that we've added. And another one of our devs, Milk Lizard, put a ton of effort into patching all kinds of maps so that they work better in widescreen. He, I think, patched 40 or 50 different maps and cutscenes and stuff. to make sure that you don't see, you know how, like, you know, when you watch like an old TV show or something and they've taken the original 4:3 and expanded it so you can see around the sides and you can see like cast members and stuff wandering around and whatnot. That's kind of what LOD was like in widescreen. You'd see all kinds of weird stuff. You'd see people walk to the edge of the map and then just kind of stop and float there in the blackness of space, for example. Or like, you know, talking about the first cutscene again, when Fairbrand is chasing Dart, most of Fairbrand doesn't exist. So like he's just like a head and arms, basically. So when you put it in a widescreen, you just see his head and arms floating there. So he fixed that.
Very nice.
So if fans want to contribute directly to the project, how would they go about doing so? And have you found that there's been lots of feedback on the project this far?
So there's a few different ways to contribute depending on like what your skill set is, etc., etc. You know, the best way to directly contribute to the development is, of course, to you know, actually like, you know, go through our issue list, pick something and fix it. If you have the coding experience, you know, that's the best way to help us directly. Another way to help us out is with testing. You know, we always need new testers. You know, people kind of rotate in and out. You know, somebody will be very gung-ho about testing for a little while and they'll move on to something else. You know, it happens. We're never going to have the same like tester group the whole time. People, you know, they don't always want to play the same game, and that's fine.
That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. And the third way is just to, you know, send in donations to us and whatnot. You know, the more that we bring in through donations, you know, like me personally, I have a full-time job. I also do contract work on the side. The more that I make through donations, the more time I can spend working on Severed Chains.
Yeah, and concerning the work on Severed Chains and community feedback, how do you handle all that, especially if, you know, you've got people's opinions that are conflicted?
In general, I mean, the LOD community is, you know, we're all adults. We're all, like I said earlier, most of us are in our 30s and 40s. Honestly, it is one of the least toxic communities that I've ever seen, especially in gaming. Most people are just pretty chill. Every once in a while, we'll come across somebody who's just, you know, we'll say having a real bad day. And it happens, right? But for the most part, like, you know, once in a while, somebody will come in and be like, you know, this is dumb. Like, why are you doing this? Modding is stupid. Like, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, whatever, man. If you don't like it, don't use it. But most people are positive. Most people want to be helpful. You know, we have a player help channel where people can come in and, you know, if they experience any issues, they can report it there. We will triage it, take a look. You know, if it's user error, we'll help them out. If it's a bug in the game, then, you know, we'll create an issue for it and we'll deal with that when we have the time. People who want to be very helpful, we have a testing group. We can add you to the testing group. It gives you access to a couple of private channels for the testers. That's for people who sort of want to get like more into the weeds and kind of help us out long term. That kind of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and I believe that you directly helped me out with, because there was something, and I need to go back to our chat history, Fenris, because we did talk about it, and I'm like, I just can't boot this game up for some reason. And we're obviously in different time zones, as you can tell from our different accents. But I posted in the player help chat, and either yourself or one of the other mods like helped me like right away and got it going straight away. So yeah, I can personally attest to how welcoming and how helpful the community is when getting this stuff up. It wasn't just like, oh, just get good, noob. Like, why can't you get this working? It's simple. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, everyone was super helpful.
Yeah, no, everyone loves the game. Everybody wants, we're here because we like the game and we want other people to experience it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And companies sometimes don't like that, which is kind of where my next question leads, because porting and reverse engineering can exist in like a legal grey area. So how do you guys and the community approach that responsibly?
So you can't play Severed Chains unless you provide disk images. We do not ship any copyrighted assets whatsoever. Severed Chains extract every single texture, animation, model, sound, music. It all comes from the discs. And I mean, we've been clear for this long, so obviously we're doing something right. Like,
yep.
we were, I believe, in 2022. We were actually featured in a PC Gamer article on their website.
Nice.
So, I'm pretty sure that Sony is aware of our existence.
Yep.
They must be at this point. And they haven't come after us yet. So, I think we're doing what we need to do to keep the project in a legal area.
Fantastic.
No. Excuse me. What do you think has been the biggest misconception that people have about the project?
A lot of people think it's just like a mod or something. They'll come in like looking for like how to set it up in an emulator or whatever, and not really understand that it is actually like a computer program. Like it is a full PC game.
Yeah.
So they don't really know what to expect from it, and that's kind of not really that surprising, honestly. Like it's not a super common thing. Like we are starting to see it pop up a lot more with like open goal and whatnot. More people are kind of starting to understand the idea of like what ports are versus mods and emulation and stuff like that. But yeah, we do occasionally still like get the occasional person that is just kind of like confused about what it is, and we try and set them straight.
Yep.
Yeah, because like I just real quick, I just when Adam first told me that he snagged you for an interview, and he specifically said that Monoxide wants us to call this a port and not a mod. I was like, I had never actually thought of what to call this thing, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, we do try and steer clear of calling it a mod, just specifically because we try and keep the gameplay experience as close to the original as possible. Like we're really not trying to like change the experience of playing the game. We're just trying to take what's there and make it better.
Yeah, and that's 100% of what got it over the line as like our Fenris and my main like way to play it for the podcast, because we want to cover games faithfully. And I'm like to Fenris, okay, how can I cover this game faithfully but not have to play it on a PS1? And he's like, check out Severed Chains. And here we are.
And that's the thing, because like you can buy a port of this game on the PlayStation Network for like $10, and it's got some higher resolution graphics, but like you're not going to get any of the quality of life that you get with Severed Chains. And I had been following this project since I had first heard about it years ago, and I'd always meant to look into it. And then Adam contacted me about this podcast, and then it was my turn to do a host pick, and I wanted to do Legend of Dragoon, and so I started looking more into it, and I was like, this seems like a very viable way to play this game in this modern setting. and it really
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah, we actually kind of in my opinion, sort of lucked out with what we were able to do. Um, we've sort of found that the in-game textures and whatnot are actually like way higher quality than they had any right to be on the PS1. Like much higher quality than what the PS1 could even display. Um, so it was kind of like at the very end of the PS1's life cycle. They were actually, from what I've found in the code, I believe they were the dev team was beta testing some new file formats that they were planning to use for the PS2.
Nice.
So we
Okay.
found some file formats that don't really they don't match up with any of the like normal file formats for the PS1. And are kind of, like sort of like a transitionary period between what you would see on the PS1 and PS2. So we actually got sort of like, we were able to squeeze out a lot more quality because of that. We were able to make things look better just because they had shipped these textures and whatnot that were just better than they needed to be. If you kind of see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you see like projects like Severed Chains in the bigger piece of the pie of game preservation? And do you think the industry does enough at the moment to preserve older titles?
I think that these reverse engineering projects are pretty important because, as time goes on, companies kind of just tend to lose track of the old source code and whatnot. So we just made our own source code, and we've got it hosted on GitHub. Anybody can see it, anybody can reference it if they want to, and anybody can make changes to it. And I think that's very important from not only like a historical perspective, but like a learning perspective. It's very interesting to see just kind of how old games were made and whatnot. And as far as companies doing enough to kind of preserve these old games, I'm just gonna say definitely not. Like sure Sony did make LOD available on the newer consoles, but in my opinion, it was kind of just to fill out the lineup. They just needed more games. Like, when it launched on the PS4 and 5, it was actually unplayable. The game just soft locked all the time.
Yeah, I remember
like
that.
It would be,
I remember that.
yeah, it would be amazing if you could actually like get through the whole game. I would have been impressed. And they did fix it after a while, but it is just emulation, right? Like even on the PS4 and 5, like you're just playing an emulated version of the game on an emulator that's not very good. You could be playing the exact same thing on a PC emulator developed by the community for free that is better and more faithful to the original PS1. I don't want to I don't want to like talk smack, but
I was just gonna say some not so subtle nods to your team and what all they've done.
Yeah, and you're in very much like company. Like both Fenris and I have been quite passionate about our like need for game preservation, and myself particularly in a recent rant in our Patreon section about one particular place of the internet that was great for game preservation that is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can
and then
kind
there's
of extrapolate from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there are games that we have played in the past that are getting up in age, such as Dragon Age Origins, that as the day goes, or as the years go on, and as PC rigs get more high end, like those games just become harder and harder to play. But you mentioned something, and had me wondering, like, is there any direction that you didn't originally intend for this project to go based off of what the community pushed for?
I'll be honest. Like I don't really feel like the community pushes too far in any direction.
Yeah,
Um,
for the preservation of the original. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, like there's definitely some very specific mods that the community is desperate for. Cough, playable Lloyd cough. Um,
I get that. And like something that I personally would like to see would be like I don't know what it's called, but because every weapon that Dart gets or that everybody gets like is different, and the only different weapon that you see in combat is the Dragon Buster. And what I would like
mhm.
to see is more like have the different weapons show up in combat. That way it's not
Um,
just the starter bastard sword.
well, funny you mentioned that. But I don't know if you saw the mod that Icarus and I released last year called the Legend of Tides. It's basically like a full game fishing mod.
Huh? I have
Um,
not.
well, it's a full game mod. So from start to finish, it adds a bunch of different fishing holes and types of fish and bait. It adds new like tons and tons of brand new items to the game, like attack items, buffs. It also adds new gear. Um, now, these are secrets, so I'm not going to say how or where to get them.
That's
Um,
fair.
but there are weapons for every character, and they are all fully modeled.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Like that is the shit that I'd love to see in video games.
And as soon as you
It
said
is also
as soon as you said fishing, there's a particular Discord member in our Discord that would love that, and I think that will be our in to get him to play Severed Chains, is to say there's fishing.
yeah. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it is actually really fun.
Oh, my dude, toot away. Like
It's not your typical fishing minigame. I'll just say that. I do recommend checking it out.
I will definitely have to at some point.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing that I would request, and this is just a joke, by the way, but just in case it doesn't come across as it, I would like to see a reskin of Dart and Shayna as Cloud Strife and Tifa from Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, we've been trying to fight with Zychronics, one of the other devs, to not let him reskin the entire game as Final Fantasy VII. Basically, since Severed Chains started.
Yeah. Fantastic. I'm glad I'm not the only one whose mind has gone there.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not.
But what do you guys have for the future that you can tell us? So what are some features or improvements that might be on the roadmap?
So, kind of broad scale. The next release cycle that we're going to be working on is going to be really focused on the modding API. So it's going to really kind of blow it wide open what modders are able to do to the game.
Okay.
And that will go so far as to even make it so like you can make brand new campaigns in the Legend of Dragoon engine.
Nice.
like the sound
So
of that.
you could make like a prequel, a sequel. You could make your own game with its own storyline, whatever. Now, as far as stuff we are actively working on, that's not really like core dev team stuff. I will say that we are in the process of doing a private test for a mod that the community has been looking for a very, very long time. Not going to say what it is, but there's something coming.
All right. Um So anything that you haven't mentioned yet or talked publicly about that you are excited for? As far as features that are coming out in the game? And if you can't talk about it, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away just yet.
That's
but
completely fair. That is completely fair.
If people keep their eyes peeled, they may start seeing some little hints soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So follow the link to the main Severed Change website, which we will be posting in the show notes or the show description, as well as all of Monoxide's socials as well. So you can go and support himself and the team.
Yeah.
So basically just follow that. Do you ever see this as something that could eventually be finished, or just something that will just keep evolving and evolving and evolving?
I kind of go back and forth on that, you know. There's always going to be some little thing to tweak. It's hard to ever call a project like that finished. I do have some like loose plans to reverse engineer other games and whatnot. Like I briefly mentioned before, like I actually have a playable Golden Sun PC port.
Oh, okay.
You can play it up until you get to the world map for the first time.
Nice.
Yeah, I also messed around a little bit with Mega Man Legends. I got kind of the first mission sort of jankily running on PC. I think that Golden Sun probably will be the next game that I kind of do a full port of. It's kind of one of those other like really classic games, like definitely one of my favorite childhood games.
Yep, very much the same. Had it on the GBA straight away. Yep.
Yep.
You know what's coming up when that drops, Fenris? That will be my next host pick after it drops.
Gotcha. Looking forward to it. Is there anything that working on Severed Chains has taught you personally?
Oh god, when I first started working on Legend of Dragoon, I barely knew anything about reverse engineering. I knew nothing about the PlayStation hardware. I knew nothing about writing decompilers or anything like that. So, the entire thing has been a learning experience.
I was about to say, like, it taught you a little bit, yeah. A little bit.
And if you could...
Yeah,
go ahead.
I had never really, like, architected, like, a project this large before either. So, it sort of taught me a lot about, how to, manage a project at scale. I've worked with other people before, but not really in like a management position, right?
Yeah.
We've got at any given time we've got between like 2, 3, 4, 5 people working on it, depending on like availability and interest and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely a balancing act.
And just to touch on what you said briefly, for listeners who may not know anything about Legend of Dragoon, what he meant by large project is Legend of Dragoon for the PlayStation 1 was 4 discs.
Mm-hmm.
The second largest game that I can think of is Final Fantasy VII with 3 discs. And the majority of all PlayStation 1 games that you could purchase was a single disc. So, like, the game is, for its time, massive.
Yeah, they were very, very ambitious, and the original scale was actually even bigger. They had to cut quite a bit of stuff.
I mean, it doesn't show. I had no clue that they had to cut anything, but it really doesn't show because everything flows together fairly seamlessly.
Yeah, they did make a pretty cohesive story. You
Yeah.
can kind of feel it on the third disc, um, mostly just because it's like so many FMVs. Um, like
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of the third disc is just like watching FMVs, compared to, like the previous discs. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. The FMVs and LOD are pretty great.
Oh yeah.
Maybe aside from the voice acting, but
And if you could go back and give yourself advice at the start of the project, what would it be?
oh god, I literally started out translating code by hand. So like
Oh.
I would have Ghidra, the disassembler, open on like one monitor and IntelliJ open on the other monitor, and I was just like looking back and forth between the two, like looking at the raw assembly and like translating it all by hand, op by op, like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of ops. And of course, that is extremely error prone. Um, a ton of the like early issues that I had with doing this was just uh, was just human error, translating things incorrectly. When you're literally translating, like I said, many thousands of ops just to do like the simplest thing. Like it's very easy to make a mistake. Um, I eventually ended up writing tools that did a lot of the translation for me, and that speeded things up drastically. Um, it took uh, probably pretty close to a year. Yeah, it took pretty close to a year to just get to the title screen.
Oh wow.
Like a year of work. And that was without like controller input or anything even working. Like just getting the title screen to show up on the screen took almost a year. Then, with these tools that I had written and refined over the years, I was able to get Golden Sun, like the entire opening to the game running within like a few weeks.
Nice. So your advice ultimately would be to just like surreptitiously just like drop these tools that you've created over the years. Just be like, hey, here you go, try these things out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, basically understand the problem and automate where possible.
Yeah,
Cool.
fantastic. Well, that's all the questions we have for you, Monoxide. If you have anything else you'd like to talk about, by all means, plug your stuff, plug your website, plug your Ko-Fi. All the information will be in the show description.
We could throw out a couple of some of the weirder bits of lesser known lore if you want.
Sure.
Well, one of the weirdest things is that Rose was actually going to be a Super Mario RPG character.
Huh?
Yeah, no, that's actual. That's real. That's not a joke. The guy who developed the Super Mario RPG battle system was actually one of the lead developers of Legend of Dragoon. And he had
Okay.
originally envisioned Rose as a Super Mario RPG character. And
Very interesting.
yeah, she was originally going to be the main character of Legend of Dragoon as well, and she was going to have green hair.
I don't see it.
I'm not a fan of that. I like my goth girls, so I like Rose just the way she is.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And the other thing I'll throw out there is that so Soa, the deity, is actually a spacefaring alien from a advanced race that seeds life in the galaxy.
Hmm.
So the tree of life all of a sudden makes so much more sense now.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, that's consider my guests flabbered. Um,
Well,
I don't know what to do with that.
now someone needs to put Rose in the Super Mario RPG.
Yeah.
There'd be projects for the
Not a
SNES
bad
version
idea.
at least. Probably not the Switch. That's probably too locked down to really play with. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, the SNES version. Get out there
But
and make it happen, people. You've heard it first here.
yeah, now that I say that, do you kind of see the resemblance between the battle systems in the two games?
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Yep. Now you know why.
The more you know.
So yeah, if people want to play Severed Chains, where they have to go, Monoxide?
So you can just go to our website, which is legendofdragoon.org. Very easy to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Up near the top of the site, you'll see a menu that says PC port, and that's all you need.
Yep.
We've got instructions on the site for setting it up. It's very easy. It's easier than setting up an emulator. You don't need a BIOS or anything. All you need is Severed Chains and your disk images. It automatically downloads Java. It does all the setup for you automatically. You just need those two things and you're good to go.
Yep. And it's basically playable on everything PC now, isn't it? Windows, Mac, Linux, Steam Deck. It's all there?
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, everything. We support even weird architectures like Windows ARM if you have one of those for some reason. And it'll run on pretty much any hardware.
Fantastic. Has there been much testing on the handhelds outside of the Steam Deck? Like the Legion Goes or some of the more budget hardware stuff? Or
I know we have several people who have played on the Legions. I've seen some people on the regular Legion Goes, as well as the Xbox versions. I don't have any handhelds personally for testing, but yeah, I know we have seen several people who have said they've played on them.
excellent. Well, if you ever need a handheld tester, we've got a handheld guru in our network that I'm sure would love to give it a go.
Oh,
He loves trying to break
Good to
games
know.
on handhelds. Or get them going. Not break
Very
them,
good
but
to
get
go.
them going. Yeah. And
and actually, on that note, I am working on adding support for embedded devices.
Okay.
So not devices that run Android,
yep.
but any embedded device that runs Linux, like Raspberry Pis and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We will hopefully have support for that in the near future.
Oh, okay.
And do you think we'll ever see Severed Chains on our phones?
I'm gonna level with you. I cannot stand Android development.
Fair enough.
Android is fairly behind on Java versions, like years behind, and they don't really support full Java. So it's pretty unlikely. I did do some testing with Winlater, which is like a Windows emulator that runs on Android.
Mm-hmm.
I was almost able to get the game to boot up, but not quite. So those tools are always growing and evolving.
Yep.
So you never know. Maybe sometime in the future, they will get good enough that it'll just work right out of the box. We'll see.
Fantastic. And there's also a Ko-Fi link there for those that want to donate to the project as well, to keep the lights on, for want of a better word, as one of our other podcasters likes to say. Is there a direct link there as well?
Any donations are greatly appreciated. The more we bring in through donations and stuff, the more time we're able to dedicate to making Severed Chains better.
100% get that. Yeah, Fenris and I
Oh,
are
yeah.
also both full-time workers, part-time projectors.
Mhm.
So yeah, completely understand where you're coming from, my man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. This was our first
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
dev interview. Hopefully we can get a few more going. I really like this kind of format, to be honest. Yeah. I'm not doing
Yeah.
as much talking. I love it.
Fair enough.
But
Yeah, it is always fun to just kind of come on and, you know, chat about the project and stuff, you know. Like, I like talking shop, so, yeah.
Yeah. And like in the process, you taught Adam and I out a whole lot about what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
100%. So everyone, yeah, very much head on over to legendofdragoon.org to try out Severed Chains for yourself, and donate to the project as well to keep it going, especially if you love fishing, because it sounds like that will be an awesome thing that I'll need to track down in the near future.
It's super
Same.
fun.
Cool. So thank you once again, Monoxide. This has been Spectre approved. This will get released alongside our Legend of Dragoon episode, which is the next game that Fenris and I will be talking about. So once again, I am Adam.
and I'm Fenris.
And happy
And we were
gaming.
joined by.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I was on autopilot with the engine.
oh yeah, okay. We were joined by Monoxide, who is the lead developer of Severed Chains.
And happy gaming, everyone.